Hey everybody, my name is Michelle Cardocas, aka Coach Max, and I'm the founder and creator of the NobleCause podcast. I created this platform to have an outlet for some of the teachings that I learned in my own life and that I am called to share with other people. A lot of my episodes were recorded mostly in 2019, and I've been wanting to make my way back to this podcast and to this project, mostly because the reason why I created it was to create a space to share some advanced principles that I think help humanity in general and in a way that can last forever. So I always say writers never die. And this is my contribution of something that, somebody can listen to it at a different time, a different space. It really is out there for whoever to pick up for whenever it's in front of them. So what has really allowed me to get to this point to teach and share again, which I think that is important to note, is getting into the place of alignment. And what that means to me and what I've come to learn about alignment is that we go through processes starting with our desires for the way that we want to live our lives. And from those desires, we expand into them, meaning different things happen in our lives that expand this new desire for the way that we'd like to live our life or the type of person that we would like to be. And we all can be familiar with what that feels like with the desire and the expansion aspect of it. But the next part of that is a little bit more tricky to navigate is the alignment. And I had the opportunity recently, just with kind of unexpected events, having some time to myself and time to reflect and really get into that space of alignment. And through that process, it allowed me to step into my expansion, to learn all of the lessons that the past, 3 years, 4 years for me, really, it's been kind of quite an ordeal for the last few years in my life, just shaking a lot of things up and putting things in different places. And I have learned that to be my expansion and that this is my opportunity for the alignment. I believe that the desire, expansion, alignment is a huge principle in and of itself, and I look forward to speaking more about that in the future. However, this episode is about alchemizing choice into freedom. It's always been a passion of mine to give back in whatever way to contribute. I love coaching. I love being a student as well as being a teacher. And I've just really come into the awareness that that's what I am here to do. So how that shows up for me in my life is that I am here to teach alchemy. And what that means is my personal experiences, the experiences in my life, are for me so that I may work through them, so that I can witness my process, so that I can alchemize that experience into the true gift that it's made to be. So in the process of discovering, finding, getting that true gift, that is whenever I have the opportunity to share those principles that allowed me to alchemize that situation. So that's what I'm here to do, and that's what my purpose is, and that's what lots of things in my life have shaken up to allow me to be in this space, especially for this time, because it's a really important time, I feel like, to do that work so that we can alchemize our experiences, so that we can witness our process, so that we can put out the expanded consciousness into the collective. And I'll get into this a little bit more. I've written a lot of notes for this episode to really offer a new way of thinking. I am fascinated and have been fascinated with the art of martial arts, but the ancient tradition and what that means. And I've been studying the warrior monk and realizing the different aspects of myself. So the warrior is somebody that trains to fight. The monk is somebody that trains themselves, their minds, and teaches others to not fight. And the warrior monk embodies both. So that's what I'm here to do, is have aspects of both of those things. So through my process, I have created a program that I call Grit Work. And it's my own personal teachings. It's things that I 100% organically have created. I do have other aspects from different teachings that have taught me, and I've kind of just like packaged it all together for a coaching program to help other people. So it's called Grit Work, but the foundation of Grit Work is what I call conscious responsibility technique. And I have made that into an acronym for CRT. And CRT, conscious responsibility technique, is really the foundation of all of my teachings. Because we have to, for us to have any understanding, we have to get into this space, come into this space of non-judgment, of no shame, of no blame, or for any other emotion, so that we can witness a process and so we can alchemize our experience into the light that it's meant to be. So just a little bit about the conscious responsibility technique so that you can understand the basis of this. Conscious responsibility technique. Grit work is a daily practice of conscious responsibility. We empower ourselves by taking radical responsibility for ourselves. Everything is your fault, but you are no victim. Our beliefs, our thoughts, our words, our actions, attitudes, and experience are 100% our responsibility. You create your own reality, but the law of attraction has been hijacked. Nobody is coming to save you, nor should they rob you from the experience of personal redemption. Practicing a positive mindset is valuable and proven to help physical and psychological health. However, in the words of Tony Robbins, thinking happy thoughts about the weeds in your garden is not the same as going out into your garden and pulling out the weeds by the root. When the human race is riddled with physical and mental illness, depression, suicide, addiction, and many have chosen to check out and function solely on distraction, suppression, and autopilot, it's time to get back to our roots and learn a better way of living. So that's the foundation of the conscious responsibility technique, and that's the foundation of all of my teaching, because it starts from here. It starts from here. We're never going to solve anything on this side, on the exterior. It just doesn't work that way. We're led to believe that we should think that way and contribute to that way of thinking. But that's why we kind of are in the situation that we're in. So, I want to get into this episode about alchemizing choice with freedom. And I'm sorry, my microphone, I didn't have the cords with me that I needed to use, so hopefully the audio is okay on this. Okay, alchemizing choice into freedom. We all make choices. We all make choices based on our individual experiences and beliefs. Okay? The thing about choice is that choice can inspire conscious action. And whenever I'm talking about these things, I hope that it triggers some experience within you so that you can make this your own, because all that I'm doing is saying things that have resonated with me in my experience. So whenever I speak these words, my intent is that they resonate with you in your experience in whatever way. That's not for me to know or judge, or that's not for me, that's for you. So that's why I talk very etherical. That's why I talk about the higher perspective, is because how it affects people on an individual level is really that is the alchemy, how they introduce it to themselves and how they are able to then let it work on them in whatever way so that they can give something else back, so it alchemizes into something else so that they can give that back into their environment. So, I have to say before I get too far into this, the reason why this has come to me is because choice is big right now. I think we can all agree. Your choice, my choice, our choice, how my choice affects your choice, how your choice affects my choice. Okay? So that's what we're really talking about now. The reason why that we're talking about this is because we're trying to untwist and unwind this confusion so that we're able to see it clearly, so that we can move through the process, so that we can alchemize to get the gift. There's a gift in all of this bullshit, I promise. There's a gift in all of it. We have to work through it. That's what the process is. That's what these choices are. So our choice, okay, leads to our inspired conscious action. I make a choice. I'm going to choose to do something today. I'm going to choose to let my actions speak a certain way. I then have the inspired conscious action. I make something happen. I make a move, okay? So that choice, inspired conscious action, that is the catalyst of our process and our progress. So we're moving along, okay? We're moving along. We have a choice, we have an action, which leads to our process, which leads to our progress. What our process is, what any process is, what we're doing, the living part of it all, that is our learning, and that is our evolution. Okay? This is what life is. This is the living. It's how your choices inspire your actions, which aid to your process. This is your process. This is the living. Your learning and your evolution is the foundation of our beliefs that drive our choices. Okay? So there's a cycle to all this. We have our choice, how we're choosing to live, who we want to be, how we're choosing our choice is the catalyst to our process. Our process is our learning and our evolution. Our learning and our evolution is the foundation of our belief, what we believe to be true, our truth. And our truth and our belief is the foundation of our choice. So sometimes we start here and we make a choice and we go through that process and we learn something along the way and it affects our belief, and then we come back again, and guess what? There's another choice there. You created another choice because you went through the cycle. All right? So if we continue to learn through our choices, through our own choices, and mind you, this is not right and wrong. This is not what we're talking about. We're talking about living. We're talking about life. We're talking about expansion. We're talking about cycles. So if we continue to learn, we continue to expand in our beliefs, which allows us more choices. So, the other side of this, the flip side of this, the contrast to this, is when our beliefs are linear, meaning one-sided, one-dimensional, from here to here, point A to B, black and white. We are actually shutting off our possibilities. And we convince ourselves that we have no choice. And then we fall into victim mentality. And the victim mentality is what inhibits our growth. It inhibits our growth by derailing our entire process. So instead of allowing it to be a cycle, we're saying it starts here and it ends here and that's it. So all these other choices that we could have had if we would have kept going and learning and expanding, we shut all of them off. Because we've already made up our mind that there's no choice. And that's what the victim mentality does, is it stops us thinking that we have a choice. This happened to me, or this situation is the way that it is, or this environment is the way that it is, which affects me a certain way, which takes away my choice, which takes away my freedom, really, is what we're saying. Is that we no longer have a choice to be an active participant in our own life. And I want you to question that, because that is really what a lot of thought processes would want us to believe. I don't believe that it's true. So when our choices become And this is what's happening with everything. When our choices become short-sighted, then we lose hope because we think we don't have a choice. The next part of this linear example and how it can manifest in our life is how we view others and the world or our environment. So if we don't recognize it in our own lives, how we are adopting a linear mindset, but when we believe that the choices of others are also linear and short-sighted and even ignorant, so whenever we believe that other people's choices are short-sighted and ignorant, then what we're doing to ourselves is that we are shutting off the possibility of learning about ourselves through our personal relationships and the relationships with our outer world. So whenever you have a thought about somebody else and the way that they think, and they must think this, they must be this person, point A, and this is the outcome, point B. That's it. That's all that you get. It's a linear way of thinking. It's saying that their choices, they only have very limited choices. It's a scarcity mindset, okay? What's interesting about this topic, especially in this point in our evolution, and I think that it's really important to add this in at this point, is that personal freedoms and choices have been twisted into a really weird, false evidence of compassion. Okay? So compassion, what's compassion? The best definition I've heard of compassion is putting yourself in somebody else's situation, but recognizing and realizing that you'll never really know what it's like to be them. So this is important because we don't always know what the best choice is for ourselves, right? So imagine the reality of being able to make a better choice for somebody else in their life. I mean, think about that for a second. It's just not possible. There's no way that you can make a better choice for somebody else in their life because you don't know if even their wrong choice could ultimately be what's best for them. You don't know that. So whenever we're talking about compassion, whenever we're talking about, I wish that you would make a better choice because why? And this is something that definitely could be disputed, but this is how I've come to understand it, and it resonates a lot with me, even though it's so simple, but almost too simple. That is, the reason why we want somebody else to make a different choice, really, truly, is to make us feel better. I want you to take better care of your health because it causes me pain to watch you suffer. Think about that. So even though we're saying that it's a selfless thing, no, I want you to be better for you, we're really saying it causes me suffering and discomfort to watch or witness your suffering and discomfort. So I would really like if you could make a different choice so I can feel better about your choices. You could take that one or leave that one. But I think that it's really important, an important aspect to throw out there. Because what do we do whenever we're doing that? We're using that linear thinking. We're saying black and white. Nope, make this better choice. Nope, should have done this, should have done that. I'm super guilty about all that, but working on it. But whenever we take that linear approach, we are disrupting our cycle, the cycle of the learning, the cycle of the expansion, the cycle of the beliefs and the choices, making better choices, creating better choices, creating more possibilities. All right, so that's a cycle that is representative in nature. That is what survival of the fittest is all about. It's not about making the right choice all the time. It's about making lots of different choices and creating lots of new choices. You know, one of the things that is happening right now is that people are only considering one piece of information to be legitimate. I hear this a lot. You know, I was thinking this morning about the science, and don't get me wrong, like I have expanded my knowledge a lot by researching things and reading the science and understanding things from that perspective. However, where do you think that starts? It starts with being open to possibility. That's how anything that has ever been discovered or created or invented started, with the possibility of the unknown, started with the possibility of what you didn't know before. And it is science that catches up to saying, okay, that's legitimate. But it's not science that creates the possibility, you know? It's like a Wim Hof method, you know, and I'm trying not to get too off subject, but Wim created this whole methodology to help people in their lives, and he'd been doing it for 30 years, and this person had an outcome, and this person had an outcome, and it helped people, and they kept teaching, and that's why it became successful. It wasn't until years down the road that the science was like, that checked it all out and did experiments, and hey, this actually is legitimate. So it's like, only at that point is it legitimate? You know, I believe in the power of possibility and the power of belief and the power of creating possibilities and expanding your beliefs. That's where change really happens. That's how we really get things, you know, moving in the right direction. Anyways, I just had to throw that out there because I love Wim Hof and I'm totally getting into all this stuff right now. But the whole point about the cycle is that, you know, it is a process, and there is beauty and beauty and power within that process. And it's the process of evolution. And whenever we're talking about choice, whenever we want other people to make a better choice for themselves to make us feel better, what is that? That's attachment. That's saying, I'm so attached to you and what you're doing that it causes me pain, and I need you to make a better choice to make me feel better. And where in the world is that conscious responsibility and all of that? We'd be a lot better off detaching ourselves from things than trying to get other people to make different choices for themselves to make us feel better. That's a bass-backwards way of doing things. But that's what we're taught, right? Well, I'm here to teach something a little bit different. Okay. So, getting back to this idea with our outer world. So I kind of talked about compassion and attachment, right? So we're talking about how the cycle of choice, and how whenever we have a linear mindset even towards other people's choices, how that cuts things off, right? So when we cannot co-create with our environment, then our possibilities are limited because we have derailed the process. Our linear beliefs, our linear choices, our linear beliefs about others' choices, because this is the same thing, whether you have those linear beliefs about choices, or whether it is your linear belief about other people's choices, saying their choices are linear, their choices are short-sighted, their choices are from point A to B, black and white. You did this and it's wrong, it's a bad choice. I've decided that. So then this is what we're talking about. Then that will only get us from point A to point B. So all this crap that you're hearing right now, about my choice and your choice and how your choice affects my choice and blah, 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 blah. And we've already made up our mind about it and we've cut off possibilities and it's really gotten to the point to where it's literally has cut off our possibilities to even create any more choices because we're believing that we don't have any. So this will only get us from point A to point B. But when we consciously participate in the alchemy, viewing our choices and the choices of others as the catalyst of our learning process, that actually expands our beliefs. And that expands our potential, and we co-create possibilities within ourselves and the outer world. That's how we create more choices, is by understanding the cycle of choice. Understanding that choice is inspired action. Action is learning. The process, it's learning. You're not doing anything wrong in learning. You didn't know any better. You made the choice with the decision, with what you had right there. You learned along the way. You expanded, and now you have more choices. That's how we create more choices. We don't push up against it by saying, nope, you need to make different choices. That's going to somehow open me up for more possibilities. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. Judgment, shame, blame, or escapism does not alchemize expansion. It actually hinders it. So whenever you're judging your neighbor for their choices and their beliefs, you are stopping anybody from getting anywhere, especially yourself. So I want you to really recognize that, is that we get very self-righteous. I'm right, you're wrong. Oh, I hear this one a lot. I know more than you do, or you're ignorant, or you're buying into these lies, or all these things. You're making a bad choice. You're making a choice that affects other people's. We hear this constantly, constantly. But all that's doing, that is rooted in judgment, that is rooted in shame, that is rooted in blame. That's different. Listen to this. That's different than, I don't understand what it's like to be you. I've never walked a day in your shoes, and I know how hard it is for me to be me, so I couldn't even understand. But I can see that you're making these choices for yourself, and I hope that you get to experience that process and the learning to where you can be expanded to have more choices. For yourself and for me. That's what I want for myself. That's what my intent for you. If I could have anything, if I could do anything for you, it would just be to let you be. Doesn't that feel different? Doesn't that feel like we're actually going to get somewhere with that, Like, oh, okay. What does judgment and shame and blame do? It's heavy. It's heavy. There's density to it. It suffocates us. Do you think that aids to possibility and pure potential? Nope. And we all have a responsibility to check within ourselves how we're contributing to that mindset. So this is a good opportunity to talk about acceptance, okay? Because acceptance plays a large role in the responsibility and how this all kind of ties together. And the reason why I want to talk about acceptance is because it's important to understand and recognize the difference that acceptance is not agreement, okay? I accept that certain things are happening in the world. I don't agree with them. I accept that it may serve a purpose in some way, shape, or form that I don't understand. That's what acceptance means. So whenever I accept you, it's not saying, oh, I agree with everything that you're doing. It's saying, I accept that you are you, that you have your own life, that you're you. You're walking your path. I accept it. I accept all these terrible, awful things that are happening in the world. They're happening. That's the first step, is acceptance. Because if you don't ever accept it, then how can you move through that? How can that be a part of your process? Just pushing up against it, that's not going to get you anywhere. That's a linear thinking. That's thinking, no, this means this. Not, I don't know what this means, but I know that it's part of the process. Another important thing to understand, I have written down, acceptance is holding space for potential and possibilities. Because when you accept things for what they are, then you are open and expanded to possibilities. Think about, if you have a parent that never accepted you for who you are, does that just make you want to go be free and explore the world? No, it kind of shuts off your choices, and you always have that, judgment and shame and blame in the back of your head. If you had a parent that accepted you for who you are and accepted that you're going to make mistakes and loved you anyways, I mean, that's like the godly love, that's like the Heavenly Father love, to where we get to move through our process, and we get to let it make us better, and we actually do get to let it make us better, because we get to move through the process. So another aspect is understanding contrast as an evolutionary catalyst. So I heard once that there's nothing negative. That negative should be considered or called an evolutionary catalyst. And I really enjoy that, what that has to offer, because it makes me think about things in a different way. So we call it contrast because it's lighter than right and wrong, black and white, because that's a linear, right? Contrast is different shades. Contrast, I mean, you can have contrast in the cycle of things, darker, lighter, darker, lighter. I mean, giving you some visuals here, but so understanding that that's what contrast is. It's not black and white. Whenever we make it black and white, then it's always only going to be black and white. We're making it that way. This is like the expansion of like the whole thoughts become things thing. This is the application of that. So the next thing that I have written down is love and light alchemizes expansion. Because it's really important that we recognize this. Judgment, blame, shame, fear, all those things, that only gets us so far. Love and light is what alchemizes our expansion. It is the cornerstone of our expansion. So, I kind of want to summarize all of this, and then at the end of my episodes, I always try to have some practical tips to help you on your process, if you feel called to do so. So to summarize the alchemy of choice into freedom, is that choice is the catalyst for our process. My choice is my catalyst for my process. Your choice is your catalyst for your process. My learning and evolution is the process that expands my beliefs, and it creates more choices. Your choice is the catalyst for your process and your learning and your evolution, and it is the process that expands your beliefs and creates more choices, which creates more possibilities and further expanded potential. This is how we create things. This is how we expand. This is how, especially time right now, whenever we feel like we don't have a choice, everything's happening to us. This is how we get out of that thinking. This is how we create new choices, literally. And the more choices I create for myself, the more choices I create in the collective, because I built a bridge. I built a bridge. A way shower is somebody that shows a choice when there wasn't a choice there before. That's what a way shower is. I want to be a way shower. I want to say, no, we have lots of different choices. The cycle supports our relationships with our choices and the relationships with our beliefs of others' choices. The cycle is supportive of the expansion, not the linear. Whenever I was thinking about this concept and this principle earlier, so I suggest, if you guys haven't seen it, go see the movie Free Guy, because that's a great example of what we're talking about with choice. One of the things I want to put out there is that we've all been there, okay? We've all been there to where we've made the wrong choice, we've made the bad choice, or we suffer because of our choices, or we have a negative experience because of our choices. Okay, this is not about judgment. We've all been there. But when we focus on it just being like, oh, I made this bad choice and now I'm screwed for the rest of my life, then we cut off any possibilities for growth for ourselves and for others. Whenever we believe somebody else to have made a bad choice, you didn't do something, So you made a bad choice, and so now you're going to die, or you're going to whatever it is, out there. So when we focus on the linear belief of choice with ourselves and the choice of others, we depress the cycle. We close it off, and it doesn't go past point A to point B. It manifests, this is something to be aware of, it manifests as judgment, as blame, as shame, and as resentment. All right? That's how that happens. It's because we're not letting ourselves and others live the life. So instead it's manifesting as blame and shame and judgment, and then it goes nowhere. It's like the negative cycle. It's like a loop. Okay? There's the cycle that goes, and then there's the loop that doesn't go anywhere. It just keeps on doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. The powers that were would really like for us to stay in a loop. And we stay in a loop by having that linear mindset and that linear thinking, and not allowing our choices to create new choices. Okay, so this is the time for practical tips. One of the practices I think is super important, I call this radical acceptance. Try it for one day. Try radical acceptance of yourself and others. This is something that meditation teaches us too. With acceptance, it's recognizing our resistance, recognizing what we resist. And you don't have to be forceful about your acceptance, but it's more, start with an awareness of what you resist. Once we have an awareness, we can just say, okay, I'm resisting that right now. These are skills that we really have got to start learning. You don't have to feed into everything, okay? Just because you resist everything, it's like you're triggered, you're just like trigger happy all the time, and your nervous system is just like, overamped constantly. What acceptance does, and what the awareness of resistance does, is that it's like, okay, note it. So we learn in meditation, note it. I'm feeling resistance right now. I have resistance towards that thing. I have resistance towards that thing. I have resistance towards that thing. Sometimes there's a freaking lot of resistance, but we recognize it. So we put it over here. We don't make it who we are. It's not, I am not resisting. I am experiencing resistance. I'm separating myself from it so that I can be aware of it, so that I can put it into my process, let it be a part of my process, so I can learn more about myself through the process, so that I can get the gifts that we're talking about on the inside of all this junk. There's a gift. You know what the gift is? Not being so freaking trigger happy about everything. Being able to be calm. Because ultimately we're talking about alchemizing choice to freedom. Guess what's at the end of freedom? Sovereignty. That's why we're talking about this. Sovereignty. That's a beautiful thing. I mean, you talk about somebody that can just stand in their authenticity and be themselves in spite of everything else that's going around. That's who I want to be. That's why I strive to, and it only works as if I do my process, is if I work through it. I allow every experience that I have to teach me something. It won't go away until it teaches me something. And then that's the alchemy, and then I can alchemize it with and introduce it to myself. And once I have me, once I am whole, once I am fulfilled, is when then I introduce my best self to my environment. And no longer is my environment affecting me so much. I am me. I am whole. I am sovereign. I'm a sovereign being. And I am introducing that into the environment. And if this works out, it's cool. If it don't work out, it's cool. It's all good. It's part of my process. I'm going to keep on going and going and going and going. And expanding my beliefs and expanding my consciousness and expanding my choices so that we all have more choices. The things that I'm doing right now, I had no idea it even existed 5 years ago. My life has changed so much that my entire world literally is built around choices that I created by just being open to more choices, by just doing the process, doing the work. Seriously. I believe this stuff, man. Okay. Practicing radical acceptance. Another practice is to consciously hold space for possibility. So every time we get caught up in like being really aware of that like density mindset, the linear mindset, so it's like just take a time, just a couple minutes to really like open up yourself to possibility. Explore the thoughts that resonate more with like, I don't know anything, I don't know everything, and the most beautiful things in this world are things that I could never know. They're unknown and unknowable. And I'm walking into pure potential, like that mindset, like the expansion, the possibilities, and just holding that space for that because it matters. Because it teaches our brain like, oh yeah, we don't have to have it all figured out. I mean, we can make a choice about what's in front of us based on our experience, and we can keep going and then learning and growing and creating more choices. But we don't have to have the point A to point B way of thinking. Just be open, So holding that space for possibility. One of the things I wrote down that is super freaking important is energy cord cutting. The reason why this is important, and I've experienced this in my own life, is because, especially when we're talking about judgments of choice, if I am constantly thinking about somebody else's choice, that energy is siphoning off of me. Literally. It's siphoning, it's taking away from me. It's taking away from my own choice. Because I can't do anything with that. It does nothing for nobody, just obsessing over other people's choices. If somebody else is obsessing over my choices, then they are siphoning my energy away from me as well. And they're giving me power and energy that doesn't belong to me. So it's not a healthy relationship, okay? So if you find yourself constantly focusing and worrying about like, oh, all these other people are making all these choices, and you're just really like caught up in all that, recognize that it's taking your energy away. So sometimes, and I've had to do this in my own life, I do this with everybody. I don't care if you're my enemy or if you're my best friend. I go through this process of cutting energetic cords. And what it is a process of being open with no judgments. I have a thing that I can share with people that one of my mentors, Jason Estes, has shared with me, has given me permission to share with other people. So if that's something that you would like, he gave me permission to share with my people. But it's a template for cutting cords with no judgment, with unconditional love, sending the cords to the light of God. What it's doing is it's unplugging me from you, it's unplugging you from me, because at the end of the day, like, we don't want our energies to be siphoned off of us, and we don't want to be siphoning off anybody else's energy. That really doesn't, it doesn't help anybody. It just really doesn't. And for us to be sovereign beings, for us to be free, if we're really talking about choices, alchemizing to freedom, then we have to be free with our own energy and not be scattered everywhere all the time. And if it's being sucked away from you, if you find you're having a hard time, for me, how it shows up in my mind is obsession, like obsessing about what other people are doing, obsessing what this other person's doing, or thinking they should be doing something different, or thinking they should be making a better choice, or all this. Like that means that I'm just like allowing that energy to just be siphoned off of me, and I'm giving my power to somebody else. Whenever I can make a lot better choices for myself, whenever I am whole and I have embodied my power. So that is a really important aspect of being free and being a sovereign being. And it also allows other people to be free, because you are freeing them from you siphoning off their energy. And that's a really important thing too. If you love, like the saying, if you love somebody, let them go. This is like even deeper than that, because it's saying, I would rather you be free and me be free than have a codependency thing going on, even though that's what we're used to. And just be mindful whenever you do these energetic cutting cords, it could change your life. But I promise you that it will not change your life in the way that is not best for you. You just might not understand it. It's a hell of a process. Part of that energetic cutting cords also goes along with releasing attachments, because what we're actually doing is it's not really love. It's an attachment, and it has to do with more about controlling people than it actually does about compassion, care, and love. So it's kind of something that's been twisted into thinking that it's something else. The last thing that I have to say to close with is to choose love. That might seem super cliche, but seriously, like, for me in my process, whenever I'm going through all this stuff, and I'm ready to align with it, and I'm ready to like learn from it and let it teach me, I come into a space to where I just appreciate myself. I'm able to like really be aware of like me, where I am and where I end and everything else is. So being aware of my space and where I am. So I just like go within for a moment, and then I smile, because my smile is like my cue to my brain, and it's my gift to the world, and so taking that time to just like be myself and just smile. Sometimes if you're not used to that, thinking of something that brings you joy can really it can bring that energy into this process, because that love and that light and that joy, that self-sourced, has got to be a part of this process, because that is really what's going to allow you to expand and allow you to move through it. Like that is the gift. All these stuff that we're talking about, that is the gift. Your sovereignty, your freedom, your love, your light, your expansion, that's the gift. So it's just important to bring that energy into your process. And then, guess what? Whatever's in front of you, you get to do it again. And you just keep on going and going and going and going and going. And it's powerful work. It's powerful work. And don't ever think that anything that life throws you is too hard to not teach you something. Because as hard as it is, there's even more of a gift on the other side. You got to believe that, no matter what it is. That's how we release ourselves from the victim mentality. And it's powerful. And it can change the world. So, that is my take on how you alchemize choice into freedom. And I really hope that my process has aided to your process, has aided to the collective. I hope that I have created more choices for you. I hope you've created more choices for you. I hope I have inspired that in some way, shape, or form. I hope that I have built a bridge. I hope that all the crap that I've walked through and learned and kept going through aids to something, because that is exactly why I created this podcast. This podcast is called The Noble Cause. The Noble Cause, meaning that everything has a noble cause. And I created it in the space where I knew that it would last forever, and that it is a timeless, it is the hero's journey. That's exactly what we're talking about. So I love you all. I'm stoked to just sit here and commune with you in any time, in any space, wherever you are in your life. I could be far gone by the time somebody, listens to this, and I hope that it still resonates with them. So I love you all. Mwah. Keep working through the process, you guys. It's all for us. And the last thing I have to say is, unfortunately, I don't think anything that we're going through right now is going to go away. We just have to learn how to detach our minds from it. And we have to learn how to alchemize it and turn it into something else. It's not just going to go away. Nobody's going to come and save us. We have to save ourselves. So, much love to all of you.